Hello, my friends. It is Brooke with Legacy here. Today, to talk to you a little bit about some tips that I myself use when putting together a capital sizing, a deal sizing, or commercial real estate underwriting. Take your pick on what you want to call it. So, I live by three main rules. And those three main rules you'll see in this workbook that I've created. This is just a really, really basic workbook that I built. And I want to share these three main rules because the question that I got throughout my career as I was helping others, and then I'm now running my own company, is really what matters as you're setting up a real estate analysis. Like, what are the key things that I have to pay attention to? What are some rules that can help me? Now, every underwriting is very nuanced, and sometimes you need to call in some expertise on the underwriting if it's really nuanced. But there are some major rules that I live by that help me very efficiently and quickly blow right through a deal sizing and have a lot of confidence at the back end that I set it up right up front, and therefore I'm going to be able to make a quick decision and determination of what to do with that piece of real estate as based on the analysis that I set up right up front. So without me wasting any more time, the three rules that I have are: rule number one, Inputs tab. I only and always use an Inputs tab. Rule number two, groupings. Groupings matter, and I'll talk about what that means. Rule number three, cascading your spreadsheets. Cascading these workbooks actually are really important. The order you use matters. It helps you when you have to go back to a workbook and understand why you came up with the solution you did to keep a very tidy and organized cascade as well. So let's first talk about inputs. I'm right now on a basic inputs tab. And the thing that I want you to notice is all of the light blue. The light blue are the inputs for the entire workbook. Every single one of these spreadsheets is built off of this one Inputs tab. There are no inputs on any of these other tabs here. This keeps my workbook squeaky clean and deeply efficient. I only have to input one time how big the first mortgage will be, and it cascades through the rest of the workbook. I only have to input one time the property acquisition. I only have to input one time the size of the property. I only have to input one time the date on which I believe the equity is going to close in. Right? So as I think about an inputs tab is proof that you are able to simplify your thoughts and streamline your thoughts so that the analysis can flow from those things that actually matter. You remember I said in one of the earlier videos, if you've been following along with the journey, that to me simplifying is the most beautiful thing in the world. Simplifying is harder than making things complicated. Simplifying is genius. If you can figure out how to take only the most important things, put them in light blue, and then figure out how to carry them through every single one of these individual spreadsheets, oh my, you have gotten to level 8. Not 10 yet, but level 8. It is the most essential, most important rule of all. One inputs tab. Friends, Excel is huge. You can go way over hundreds of rows. You can go way down, hundreds of columns and thousands of rows. You have space to create inputs and to keep them all in one tidy input tab. So number one, create an inputs tab. Rule number two, grouping. You'll also notice that this is very visually appealing. And the reason it's very visually appealing is because I've put a lot of thought into how I group each of these boxes with a title and what falls under these boxes. You'll see that sources and uses is one section. A property snapshot and everything related to the property's particulars is another snapshot. Revenue assumptions, one snapshot. Equity request, one snapshot. So as I'm building this out, the groupings really matter. So let me give you an example. Let's pretend I need to add to this inputs tab. I need to add leasehold information. There's a leasehold on this particular property, and that has to be underwritten as well. I may, because it's a property snapshot right here, what I would probably do is somewhere sandwiched between property snapshot and revenue assumptions, I would add all of the leasehold particulars in its own box, its own little grouping. I would sort that out to fit where it makes sense so that when I'm coming back to the spreadsheet later on, it makes sense. I don't want to have inputs over here, inputs over there, inputs over there. It takes work to set your spreadsheets up this way. But once you have done that work and figured out how to condense it, you've done level 9 work. So it's not just the inputs, having one inputs tab, but level 9 work is also figuring out how to present it in a way, group it in a way that you can come back to later, and it's easy to follow. Rule number 3, cascading. And this takes you to your level 10. Notice that I have an inputs tab. Inputs feeds my sources and uses. Sources and uses is right next to inputs because this is the start of the journey with this asset. How am I raising funding in order to acquire? How am I refinancing a property? How am I repositioning a property? It starts with the sources and uses. And then as you move to the right from sources and uses over, this gets you to the outcome so that you can make your decision. So over here is basically the here and now. These are all the things that I have to put into the model so that it spits out over here the returns, the end product, the outcome. This cascading is really important as well when you come back to your spreadsheet later. You want it always to be organized for yourself and for others if they're taking a look at the spreadsheet in a way that makes logical sense. So sources and uses, and then I drill a little bit more into debt because debt is one of the components. So let's go into a little more detail on the debt. And then once I've done my sources and uses in sort of capital conversation, and I can have more capital tabs here. Again, this is the upfront work. Then I flip into, well, let's talk about how this property is projected to cash flow over all of the years. And then the end state. What are my returns going to look like? How much money am I going to make on this property if I'm the general partner or the limited partner? What's my IRR? What's my equity multiple? So this cascading approach, notice, by the way, if you flip through here, there are no light blue tabs. My inputs are all light blue. Everything feeds from the inputs tab. If you work on structuring your spreadsheets with this cascade, that your overall workbook has this cascade, when you think through the logic of building it, it becomes even more clear, the here and now all the way over to the right side being sort of the end game. And then as you add more tabs, you can plug those tabs in where they should belong so that you're basically thinking of this as almost a timeline that tells a story. Kind of nifty, right? It's a little groovy to think of it that way. Thank you so much, everyone, for stopping over today. If you want to learn more, subscribe to my channel here. You can always pop over to legacy.com. This is me paying it forward. I hope that these 3 rules, inputs tab, grouping of your inputs, and cascading, are very valuable to you. They are incredibly valuable to me. An ounce of prevention, I say, make sure you set your stuff up well up front. Don't get messy with it. The more you set it up well up front, the faster you can size deals. Thanks again. Have a wonderful day.